everybody knows where we are. Hello. We are live. Hello there, toy people. Welcome back to another episode of the Toy Coach Podcast, making it in the toy industry. I am thrilled to do this live episode with my guest, Brandon Braswell, who's also a TCA alumni. But Brandon went above and beyond and really did more than just develop a product. He created an entire TV show, and he did a really incredible pitch that he pitched at the Toy Creators Academy Virtual Pitch Event. And because so many TCAers and so many people that listen to my podcast are asking about IP pitches, and it is not my specialty, I thought, let's bring Brandon on to share his incredible pitch that really had everybody, excited about his line. So, Brandon, welcome to the show, first and foremost.
Hello, and thank you for having me. I love it. I'm excited to be part of this movement that you've created.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. So, first question I've got to ask is, what is the name of your brand? Tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. So my brand is called 9 to 5 Warriors, and it's a 90s inspired toy line that aims to recapture the magic of the Saturday morning cartoon era. At least that's what I put out there into the world. And like what that means to me, the magic of the Saturday morning cartoon era is creating toys that respark imagination and make you want to build with your hands or like just get fully immersed and create your own adventures.
What was your favorite Saturday morning cartoon?
Oh, man, I have so many, but Ninja Turtles in general was like the biggest franchise for me. Like I just know it took over everything. Like all my birthday parties, all
What
my
was the last
sleepovers,
one? The second one? Oh, Ninja Turtles in general, you said.
Ninja Turtles in general. Yeah, yeah. Like I
Uh,
grew up with the classics, like Terminator, Transformers, GI Joe. Uh, those are, of course, memorable, but I would say like Ninja Turtles had the biggest impact in my childhood.
yeah, I remember I had a Raphael, I think, came to my birthday party once when I was a kid. But my Saturday morning cartoon was actually Recess. I probably was a little bit old for them back then, but I remember I was obsessed with Recess. Like every Saturday morning, I was like, "Oh yeah, Recess is on!" So excited. I don't know,
That
so
was a great
weird.
show too, man. I think
Yeah.
we were spoiled, our generation, and that's what I'll get into. Like my pitch circles around that era,
Hmm.
and spoiled, as I was saying, is just like story-rich content, fun
Yep.
characters. Honestly, how many amazing toy lines that are still today being released and still today making an impact in like the new generation and mostly our people our age who are now accounting for like one out of every four toys being
Right.
sold.
So true. Okay, what is the essence? This goes into the next area. What is the essence and mission behind 9 to 5 Warriors?
So, like I mentioned, that whole recapturing the Saturday morning cartoon era, like to me, creativity is everything. Like resparking imagination in the toys, and that was deeply rooted. And when I sat and that thought, like, okay, why do I want to create a toy? Why do those toys, from my yesteryears, still resonate with me today? What is it about that? I boiled it down to story. And to me, story was everything. It's what creates, the difference between a toy and the toys that made us. And I wanted to start there with when I created a toy because I had, as I told you before joining the TCA, I had no idea how to make a toy, but I quickly Googled what I could do. It
Yeah.
looked incredibly overwhelming and complicated, so I started with what I knew, and that's storytelling. So my essence is really like, yeah, just resparking imagination, getting people excited about it, and that started with me with story.
And what inspired you with this idea? What was that first thing that made you think, oh, it would be really cool?
Making a toy. So
Really?
yeah, no, I was finishing your sentence.
Oh, oh,
But
oh.
I was in LA. There's this diner, and it was a cool little setup that you wait for your food, and there's a toy store next door. And at the time, I was like in my 20s. I had never collected toys, wasn't into toys at that point. I was like, I had my toys as a kid, and now I'm a grown up. I didn't think twice about it. But walking into that store, a vintage toy shop, I was like smacked with nostalgia and like waves of memories came to me, and I was just like hit with so much joy and like rush of memories that I totally forgot. And I was like, what is that, like that sensation? And as I alluded to, like my background is storytelling. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
video, and professionally, my job is to invoke some sort of emotion through video. And I was getting that emotion evoked by a physical product, and I never had that before. So that to me was just like, how do I recreate that? How do I capture that magic that I just experienced? And I wanted to create a toy from that exact moment. I was just like, I want to do that for someone else. I want to do that for the generation growing up.
So like that's awesome. It's so funny because you were inspired to create this toy and then you look into the toy industry and you're like, that's too complicated. What I'm gonna do is something more complicated and build an entire IP and world. So if you're listening to this episode and you're actually watching it live with us on YouTube, hello. I saw you there, Carla, and I saw somebody else with a name that starts with an M. She's new to our community. If you have questions as we go through the pitch that we're gonna play soon, please throw them into the chat. I can see what you guys are commenting and I will ask Brandon your questions live. So the next step after you had this idea and you thought, okay, I'm going to make the toy and then that's too complicated. I'm going to make the IP. And then eventually you found me and you joined TCA and you came to the TCA Virtual Pitch Event. Now this pitch video, I hope this is the right video because of what I'm going to describe right now.
Yeah, it is.
But this pitch video is actually the result of you having just being on vacation and you were like, Azhelle, I'm going to be on vacation and I'm afraid the Wi-Fi won't be strong enough for me to pitch and show my idea. So you cut together footage you already had of your brand and created like a pre-recorded pitch. And when I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is better than if you just pitched it live. And you even got that feedback from people at Hasbro like, oh, wow, was the best pitch I've ever seen, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Since I have the superpowers of video editing, I did want to even it out. Like I actually did do the whole thing one take and recorded it because I rehearsed my pitch over and over and over.
Yeah.
And my fear was exactly that. Like I would run out of Wi-Fi and I couldn't stream, like it was slow. So I did everything in one take as if I was pitching and showing the Zoom as I had planned or my presentation as I had planned.
Yeah.
And when I just put it together, like, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think it captured hopefully my passion and the idea at the end, at the end of the day, and it did resonate with them, I believe, yeah.
Yeah, I hear something rustling in the background. Be careful of your mic. I hear something going over it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But okay, I want to play the video. Before I do, because I want to talk about what happened after you pitched this video. What were you thinking before the pitch event? Like, were you excited to be a part of it? What was going through your mind?
Yeah, honestly, this was my first opportunity to pitch it professionally and with everything, because at that point I already had all 10 prototypes. I created the commercials, which you'll see. I created, the animation, which I'll get into too. Like, so you kind of alluded to it, like how did I jump into it? And I took the longer route. Well, unfortunately, like TCA wasn't around back then. This was like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Did whatever I could and navigated, oh, shiny light here. Maybe I should do that. Maybe I should do this. Like I was very.
Ooh,
I was.
Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
I was
just excited to put it all together and show it.
Okay, awesome. Let's try to play this. Let's hope the audio works. If not, I might have to take my headphones off. So, introducing the 9 to 5 Warriors. Now, if you're just joining us, I just want to say what we're about to look at. Brandon Braswell had invented this toy show and toy line called 9 to 5 Warriors, and this was his pitch deck that he used at the TCA Virtual Pitch Event when he was pitching to Hasbro. So let's hit play so we can learn from Brandon. Is it gonna? It's loading.
Hey, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Could you hear that?
Yeah.
Oh, you can? Oh, you could hear it? Oh, perfect. Okay, starting again.
Hey, thank you so much for the opportunity to pitch. First and foremost, I'm excited to share this passion project with you. My name is Brandon Braswell, and I'm the creator of 9 to 5 Warriors. 9 to 5 Warriors is a 90s inspired toy line that aims to recapture the magic of the Saturday morning cartoon era. To me as a kid, there's nothing better than diving into a bowl of cereal and watching my favorite cartoons. To see what the characters got themselves into or how they eventually saved the day was a great experience. But to me, the real magic happened when the shows ended and I took the adventures off screen and into my own hands with the toys. To me, story is everything. It's what brings the characters to life. It's what sparks imagination. It's what creates that unbreakable bond that lasts generations. To me, it's what sets the difference between a toy and the toys that made us. So when I went out to create my own toy, I started there. This is how 9 to 5 Warrior story begins.
gets lowered. That's when they all take over. At night, the fighting begins. There's no telling which side will win. Some good, some bad, some crazy, some rad. Commandos and bandits, they both just gotta have it. 9 to 5 warriors. Gentle electricity, brought them all to life, you see. This is how they came to be. Brought to this reality. It happens every day from 9 to 5.
So meet Alan McMillan. He's your typical Toys R Us kid that never quite did grow up. He's stuck in that uncreative office in a cubicle working that 9 to 5 grind. You might know the feeling. But, it's based in the 90s, so there is no Instagram to keep him distracted. In the interim, he actually spends most of his time creating his own action figures, made out of office supplies and leftover food. He wages his imaginary battle between the water cooler commandos and the break room bandits. It was all fun and games until one freak accident involving his Japanese energy drink, Jensei, sparked him all to life. Now Alan is caught in the middle of a real-world battle for total office domination. It'd be a miracle if he gets any work done, basically. So now that you know a little bit about the backstory, I'd love to introduce you to the toys.
Finally, a reason to go back to the office. Introducing 9 to 5 Warriors, an exciting new toy line created for the Toys R Us kid that never grew up. Offering 10 unique characters that are perfect for your cubicle or home office. The 9 to 5 Warriors are available through Big Bad Toy Store. Join the battle alongside Major Eraser and the Water Cooler Commandos as they keep the peace. Or wreak havoc with Colonel Custard and the Break Room Bandits. Choose your side as these two forces clash over total office domination.
It happens every day from 9 to 5.
Warning, do not leave unattended. Each figure sold separately. When you punch out, they come punching in.
These are the good guys, the Water Cooler Commandos, led by the fearless Major Eraser. Major and the Water Cooler Commandos know that their existence was a mistake, and that they're there to maintain office peace and keep their existence a secret. They know that if the world ever knew of them, or the power of Jensei ever got into wrong hands, humanity could crumble. So he and his ragtag group of office supplies maintain the office peace and keep their existence a secret. It'd be an easy day's work if it wasn't for the evil mastermind Colonel Custard. He and the Break Room Bandits scour the office searching for Jensei and creating new minions along the way. They're hell-bent on total office domination and seeking revenge against the wasteful humans that once tossed them away. So going back to the 90s nostalgia, all 10 of these characters are sculpted by Scott Hensley, the man behind 90% of the toys I grew up with. He hand-sculpted them and brought that unique special feel that is not only new, but has that familiar feel to them, which was important to me to go into the target demographic. That nostalgia-chasing millennial that now accounts for 1 out of every 4 toys being sold, a $9 billion marketplace. So this was all done strategically to combat the difficulties of launching a new brand. I grounded it in familiar setting and filled it with nostalgia that they're searching for. This project started 10 years ago, where I focused on the story with comic books and trading cards and a bunch of other fun products. This is all self-financed, and I currently have the initial 10 prototypes and am working with Big Bad Toy Store to take pre-orders. I believe this is just the start of what's possible with this concept, from the comics to video games to TV series and movies. I'm now at a critical point where I can continue down the path as an indie toy maker, or with the help of a partner like Hasbro, I can ensure that 9 to 5 Warriors is a catalyst to the next generation of Saturday morning cartoons for the kids growing up today. And I'd love the opportunity now to answer any questions you might have or discuss further. Thank you.
I mean, so great. I'm sure I'm about to minimize this and come up to so many questions for people that are watching live. But so yeah, I have so many. Okay, so Yasmin's here. I've got someone Bible trivia game, Carla Morrow. So guys, if you have questions, please ask them. Brandon's here to answer them. But okay, amazing pitch. It was interactive. You called out the company. I mean, I always teach you guys like put the company name like in the presentation, but like you were like, I did one better and I'm just going to call out their name. What was the feedback as soon as you had that you finished that part of the pitch?
So what was great too, like I said, this was like the first time presenting it, period, like professionally like that and everything all at once.
Right.
What was great is like their reaction to things that I hope that they would catch up on. You know, they mentioned things that are not in the presentation, like, oh, this reminds me of that specific toy line. Ninja Turtles, this is Hasbro, and I thought that was really cool. He's like, I get this sensation of that, this, and that. And he also said, like, I could see the potential of the story going this way and that way. You know, like, all I wanted to do is kind of provide, like, kind of guide rails of like, this is where I'm headed, or at least the potential what it could be.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it was just, I don't want to overload you with everything, but
Yeah.
the possibilities could be endless. And I like the feedback that like I saw a light in his eye that like saw that, oh, this could be that, this could be this, you know. And that
I
was
I
my feedback.
I did see that. So we do have a question coming in, guys. Keep them coming in. The first question I want to prompt you with, though, is you've been developing this over 10 years, right?
Yeah, but with that caveat of like stopping and going from
Yeah.
basically like it, I think as you can see, I'm like I have a lot an overachiever. I like to say like I'm a
Yeah.
perfectionist to my own demise because
Are you a
then
Virgo?
no Cancer Capricorn rising. That's
Wow, you know the detail. So,
yeah
okay,
yeah.
when did you start doing the toy part of it? Because the next question that we have from Paulette, I'm going to bring that up on the screen, is how
Mhm.
did he get the prototype made considering the costs involved? So yeah, let's talk about like when and how you got that developed. When did you start the toy part?
Sure. So the toy part started in 2020. Like most of us, work kind of abruptly stopped because of the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
and I was in a travel business, and obviously travel died. And I was like, let me utilize this opportunity that's been like scratching at the back of my head. Like I said, I started this 10 years ago, and at this
Yeah.
point, it's been 8 years since I picked it up again. And I'd always keep thinking like I should start it again. I should do something. I should let me look at the prices again. Maybe they're not expensive. Wrong. It
Yeah.
was actually more expensive. But I was like,
I'm gonna,
let's try it. Like whatever. Let me at least do one. So I
something.
chose.
Oh,
I discovered Scott Hensley, who I talked about in a pitch, and he's the
uh-huh.
sculptor behind Ninja Turtles. He did like all the bad guys. He did Star Trek, Exo Squad, like practically Street Sharks, like so many toys that I literally grew up with. And when I discovered him, like he's perfect. Like it's already nostalgia. It's already 90s based. I wanted it to be hand sculpted. And to quickly also answer, I did attempt in the past, and I made a lot of expensive mistakes, hiring the wrong freelancers, going a different route, not receiving my product after paying for it. Like there's a lot of trials and tribulations that like you do in the TCA coach. Like
Wait, say that
tell them
last
like
part again. You broke up after trials and tribulations.
that you clearly state this in the TCA, like the do nots, the top 10 do nots. I was basically like, check did it, check
Oh
did
my
it, check
god!
did it for
Wait,
you. Like,
really? Oh my gosh!
yeah. Because obviously you get excited, you want to create something, and again, without
Yeah.
guidelines, know how you just follow the wrong pieces. So
Yeah.
sorry, I'm long-winded, but
No,
2020
no, it's
comes.
great.
I find Scott, and we settle on a price. It was expensive, and I decided to do one figure. That process takes a couple of weeks, months, maybe, and
Hmm.
I received that figure. Like, I got to do another one. That was such an amazing experience to have it in your hands, to have it come to life.
Yeah.
So yeah, to answer is like what made me decide is since I already had the animations, I already did the wax packs, I already did the comic book, I did all these things besides actually attempt to make the toys. It was to me just let me try to go fully out and actually make a toy and follow the procedures. So I
I want to
googled
talk
and researched around.
I want to
Prototypes
talk
was
a
the first
little
step.
bit about the cost of those prototypes though, because people listening might be like, "Oh, but seriously, like how did you fund it?" And I want to do this from the perspective of someone who also started their own business, the toy coach, but also prior to this Customize Me. And when I started my product-based business, which was Customize Me, I worked full time and I very intentionally set aside a budget of money every month so that I could invest that into my business. And then when I did the toy coach, it was a budget of money that I set aside. And once I had a certain amount, I was like, okay, I can do this. Is that how you managed to afford your prototypes? Or did you do grants? Did you do any Kickstarters or anything like that?
Since I have multiple answers to that, of course, because the first one was strictly like it was 2020. I don't know if you remember around that time, like cryptocurrency and all this other crap was happening,
Yeah.
and I took it in crypto and it gave me a little bit of extra money, so that was like a lucky strike. The, I wanted to, but everything else I funded previously to that,
Yeah.
the wax packs, the paper products, would still cost a lot of money to do. That was all, putting away money and just like, okay, if I'm gonna make the initial step, let me just try. Okay, it's $800 here. Okay, $1,200 there. Like it adds up very quickly, and it was very overwhelming. And again, without the guidelines, I kind of kept on spending money and wasting money.
Hmm.
But truthfully, even when I made all 10 eventually, I got smarter, I got better, I found better prices, I understood more ways to save money in the long run. But ultimately, I did spend a very pretty penny on creating all these prototypes. There's kind of no way of all, but I did 10, not one.
Give us some tips around that. What, if you can remember 3 tips of how you learned to save money from
Yeah.
prototype 1 to prototype 10?
Yet, I want to preface too that we live right now in a day and age where like anything is possible, and there's so many cool tools that you can do, whether it's building your own website or it's coding or like anything like that. Like you could take the power in your own hands as well as find cheap, affordable freelancers outside of the United States. So one of the first things I used was like freelancer.com. This was before Fiverr.
Oh,
Fiverr.com is as well, like,
yeah.
but this is a caveat too, like as you warned in your courses, like sometimes you find the wrong freelancer and it kind of wastes more money. You have to do your due diligence and like look at prior examples, make sure that they really actually know what they're doing, see if they deliver, if they're over promising. And the virtue is always like if it's too good to be true, it's usually because it's not going to
It's
happen.
not true.
I had a team that promised me to make all 10 for $800, and this was
What?
like, which is insane, like let's just be realistic.
Mhm.
And they handed 10 products at the end, like 10 models. They were not 3D printable. They were not toys. They were not nothing. But that
Wow.
was a waste of dollars. Of course, I was
Yeah.
just anxious to make it. But so to save money, I mean, honestly, try to scrap together like what are you naturally good at? Like for me, video comes into my wheelhouse of power. Like I know video and I know I can create something. I can create something that conveys. Maybe I can use it to barter. People need video. Maybe like I honestly, I'm a hustler. So I try to work my way around every situation to avoid spending so much money. So I offered barter situations at the time. I offered, or just saving or doing extra freelance work on the side so I can pay for it. Like
Yep.
there's like, I'm not lying. Like there's so many different opportunities. So even if you see one path and it's very expensive, like just keep searching, utilize Fiverr, utilize freelancers, utilize different community networks. There's always someone willing to do it for cheap or free, or like there's partnerships you can come up with.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what I honestly can say. Just try everything.
As soon as Brandon gets his inventory, we've been talking about a partnership swap on our end too, like
Yeah, yeah.
video for
See, like
sales. Where we've been talking,
exactly.
so there is always an opportunity. Um, I really thank you so much for sharing that. And the other tip that I know I've mentioned in TCA is, well, one, in TCA I do have a kind of a breakdown of what these things normally cost, so you can
Hmm.
compare. And then but then I also always say, like, get 3 prices, like get prices from 3
Yeah,
people, so you can kind of gauge, like, all right, if this person's done this before and this person's done this before and they're charging this much, maybe this person charging $800 for 10 figures is out of their mind. There are
yeah,
people
yeah.
that just say
Exactly.
yes to get the quick money.
And
um
I want to touch on that again too,
yeah.
because I'll be transparent. One of my prototypes cost $5,000 alone
Wow.
just for one character. Then
The
another character.
3D model
Um,
or
I won't
the
even go into. Yeah, because some are hand sculpted and some are 3D modeled. There's there's a mixture in prices and the time frames and the technology allows. But one's $5,000 alone.
uh-huh.
The other one could be one is like I think I only spent around $800, and the
Okay.
quality and that was digital. But there's like so many things, but also because of the pandemic, $5,000 is the initial. Let's say people also freelancers, they're artists themselves. They're willing to negotiate, especially if you're trying to do more than one, and also
I
they're looking
see.
for work too. Like there's I did get 3 prices. I always try to just find the best solution.
Hmm.
But again, if it's too good to be true, then just avoid that
Yeah.
one.
That point
Yeah.
about freelancers offering a deal when you do multiple is a great point. Even me, as my own service provider, when you have to choose between, when it's one client giving you multiple projects, you're more likely to say, yeah, I'll give you a break, because if I don't, I have to learn and onboard a whole new client. So it's like sometimes it's like it's actually easier if we develop another thing together because I understand you and I know what you're looking for. I know the vibe of the character. Whereas if I get a new client, it's kind of starting over. And sometimes, don't you think in the toy industry, it's also if they really just want to work on your project, they're like, all right, I'll give you a break because
100%.
I'll give you a break
I
because
love
it's
that.
really cool. Like,
That energy of wanting to work on a project
yeah.
from a buyer's perspective, like let's say I have three quotes.
Yeah.
If I have one really expensive, one that's just kind of cheap, and then one in the middle that's kind of higher but still relatively affordable, if the one in the middle is excited about it, I'm gonna pay that extra dollar. Or even if
Yep.
this the higher, I'm gonna pay that extra dollar because they are genuinely taking the excitement. They're oh, I could do this. I could see,
Yes.
like I see firing off, and then to me that's a guarantee to be a better output, like versus taking someone like, yeah, this is what I charge. Here's this, here's my invoice, like the
Because you
end.
can see
Just
it sometimes in the work. If it's something as hands on as a hand sculpt, you can sometimes kind of see it, the passion that went
yeah,
behind it.
absolutely. And that was what was cool is that that's exactly what did happen. I chose two different sculptors, kind of going simultaneously.
Uh huh.
Um, with Scott, I saw his excitement. He's been doing this for years, and I
Yeah.
saw in the background Pringles out and like different chips, and he would create like weapons out of the paper clips and other things, and like
Mm-hmm.
I saw his brain going off with the imagination, just working on like how
Yeah.
could this be a cool toy. And the same way in the digital end, like I saw him light up with certain characters, and it was like that's the energy you kind of want to stay in when you're creating something fun.
Oh my gosh, I just realized that that's the top of a coffee cup. That's so brilliant.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Okay, let me go quickly into a few other things. I have so many things. I don't know if we can talk about this. Where can you buy this line 9 to 5 Warriors right now? Is it currently available for retail sale anywhere?
Yeah, so I initially launched a pre-sale for all 10 at once, and is the kind of thing you don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like you want to start with one and like kind of open up. But I was ambitious, and I was like, not many people have video. Maybe I
And you hadn't
can,
taken TCA yet, and then
yeah. So we know the story. But
yeah.
so only four are going to move through production right
Only
now
say
with
that
this
again.
phase.
You broke up.
Only four will be moving through toward production.
Okay.
So those four pre-ordered through Big Bad Toy Store. And that was another gamble I took was like you can go the Kickstarter route, and again being like, kind of doing this for a little bit, like I know the benefits of going the Kickstarter route is like you get the majority of the money, but the caveat is you're going to get a shipment from China eventually, a really large shipment from China, a pallet. You're going to need to put that pallet somewhere. So that's warehouse space. You're going to break. You're going to have packaging. You're going to have to break those down. That's man hours. It's stuff that like I just knew I didn't want to take away from my main job or things I just didn't want to do. Like I'm not going to
Yeah.
sit there. Pack, I'll probably make a mistake. I'm dyslexic. I'll send it to the wrong
Yeah.
place. So
Yeah.
I chose to partner with a retail like Big Bad Toy Store. I figured I could leverage their email campaign and their audience reach. They're well known within the toy industry. They obviously have a factory. I mean, warehouse. They obviously know how to handle packages. They know how to like ship it out, and they can handle everything. What that meant is a smaller amount of money that actually goes towards me. Like they're buying it at directly, a wholesale price.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was I don't want to say another mistake, but I probably will go the Kickstarter route for the remaining six because I still want to make the remaining six. And
Yes.
and like the consensus, like everyone keeps DMing me, hey, when are they going to be available? When's the Kickstarter? When's this? Like, so I know the demand is there, but I want to still just get these four out to show that I can actually deliver on my word, and plus I want to make the damn toys already. It's
These
been
are the
10
four,
years.
right? Right here. These four are these the ones
Yeah.
that?
So two good guys and two bad guys, the leaders of each, and like the sidekicks.
Awesome. Love that. Okay, so when do you have a plan for your Kickstarter? When's it going out?
Right now, my focus is just getting to production. So I just got the
Oh,
paint
okay.
masters yesterday. Enough. I'm gonna send those off to China. Then start tooling. Tooling's probably gonna take 45
Yeah.
days to
Yeah.
X amount of time. Then it starts the production process. So I'm praying, before just November or even October, like, and I can actually have these done. But we'll see.
So
Everything's reliable on China.
I do want to hail you for the focus because I mean, obviously, even myself, and I've definitely seen some TCAers want to do everything at once, like want to have a book and want to develop a show and pitch it and want to have the product and sell it into retail and to sell it to consumers and want to do all the things at one time. But I really admire the fact that you're able to focus and say, okay, I have these retail sales. I'm going to focus on getting that done, and then we'll make a plan for Kickstarter and not overstretching yourself to make sure you can deliver high quality.
Yeah. And it's always kind of been like that. Yes, I've jumped around, but time and like, it's just, that's my personality too. But even when I first started, I focused just on the animation. Like I wanted something to convey how they were made. You know, I created a 60-second anime show that doesn't exist yet. The show opened basically. So a catchy theme song, show how they were made, some action shots. And I focused on that. I said, let me get that through the line because to me that's important when I'm gonna actually go to producing it. Which was the next thing was to produce the wax packs to trading cards. Another element to expand upon the story.
I want to
Then the comic book to expand upon the story yet again.
And adding to Paulette's question, which I pulled up here, asking, are you going to manufacture or are you going to license? Clearly, you're manufacturing the toys, but would you like to license the show, I'm guessing?
I'm very open to everything. Like, honestly, it's one of those things that, like, the bright opportunity that will present itself. Thanks to your course, I actually learned a lot more. Like, I know I was asking for things in the universe, like, I want to be able to do this. And you start seeing, like, oh, that's actually a very small percentage. Like, people don't really realize, like, okay, you're selling to, as you put it, like, here's your 4 to 5% of a sale to wholesale. The factor this amount, 50%, and the retailer is making this percent. Like, it's kind of, you're like trickling down. But it's never been about money. It's like just getting the idea out.
Yeah.
Because, like, my mission is out there, like the story is out there. Hopefully it's invoking and hopefully it is the catalyst to the next generation of Saturday morning cartoons. I started this saying, it's like our generation had that luxury of so many different shows. And I truly believe that the toy industry is in the state that it currently is because no one's taking the risk and investment in creating new IPs. Like we keep doubling because again, when you really think about like in my pitch, I say 1 out of 4 every adults are contributing to the sales of toys.
$9 billion. Yeah.
When you asking why, like that's because the marketing and stories and everything was established over 20 years ago, and good story matters because the show ran, and it was not Netflix back then, so it didn't just suck you in and series after series after series. You had time to turn TV and play with your toy. From that point on, you took what you saw on TV, characters, storylines, but you created your whole new ones. And that's what resonated. And that's what keeps them buying it today. That's what kept me, that's what created that spark when I picked up the toy in the toy shop. So if toy companies really pay attention to that and stop trying to go on like a fad or something like a widget, some sort of magical thing or an app pairing device and things that are just passive, like focus on story because everything's about story. The pitch itself was a story. Hold on.
Now I've got I'm pulling down Ken's question because now what you're asking leads it into Yasmin's question. She wants to ask, how did it go with Hasbro?
So I got a follow-up and they said since his department was, I believe it was like what, toys, and he wanted to pass me on entertainment. Yeah. I got the email to be passed to entertainment and then it like fizzled away. And then I got an email from the entertainment department saying that someone's changing head positions, clearly a change in infrastructure or whatnot. Like the guy that I pitched to did like ask entertainment, but Mark. Yeah. But unfortunately, then that person got changed out and I should maybe follow up. Like this is one of those things.
I was literally about to yell at you. Oh no, absolutely not. Watch somebody from Hasbro watches this video. And they're like, wow, he just dropped us. He didn't even, I would recommend following up with Mark and saying, hey, I know there were a few changes in entertainment. I still really believe in this line. I know you were really excited about it. Is there someone new you could put me in touch with so that I can pitch this to them?
Correct. See, let me chat GPT that real quick.
I know.
Copy
I
paste
mean,
it. I'll do that
you
right after
Azhelle
this.
GPT'd it. I just told you what to say. Okay. So
But this goes back to the caveat of this entrepreneur mindset, as you said. Like you
yeah,
kind of go, and then you have this, imposter syndrome.
I,
That's why it's
you don't
here.
have to tell me.
You're coming out. So that's something I definitely like. The biggest struggle is that, like, cast aside any manufacturing issues or team issues, freelancing, money wasting. Like the biggest thing is imposter syndrome,
Uh-huh.
and that is towards every day. Like, oh, it is actually really good. Watching
Well,
the pitch, I was
everybody,
like,
yeah, watching the pitch, like this should be on TV right now. Everybody in the comments is like, what? All right, we have a few more questions. I'm going to put one up from Ken. Ken wants to know, do you have a following for your toys or for your brand?
yes.
Sorry.
I slowly build it on Instagram. Azhelle and I were just talking about Instagram. I have a catch-22 with social media, like, and coming from them really quickly, like, if you're investing so much into social media, like, that's something that you just don't own.
You don't
They
own
can
it.
algorithm very quickly, and then your content dries up. What I found is that as soon as I started investing, $500 boost a post, of course it engages, and I got massive amounts of followers. I got great comments. As soon as I stopped paying, the engagement fell through.
Yep.
Like, just found I'm not going to keep spending money, which is very expensive. I spent like $2,000 on marketing alone, which then I'm like, that's not that much compared, or how much a company did, but I'm like, that's $2,000 I could put towards a product or put towards another prototype or a comic book, something, an artist, something else. So the following is there. It's scattered, TikTok, Facebook groups, all that stuff. Thankfully, I did my due diligence of launching a while ago and embedding myself in the toy community, which at the time was a lot of art toys, and definitely toys that were just literally created by artists. They were the vinyl community, etc. So my following is within there, and I do well anytime I do post on Reddit. Let's say, like, I see the post and the engagement, and that keeps me going. But yeah, I don't know what a significant amount of following is. I remember you might have said that in the TCA or something in the past. It was like,
yeah,
people with hundreds of thousands of followers still not
monetizing.
It's still not enough for an IP. Like, it's still
Oh,
sometimes like
yeah. I
it's
did
hard to
have.
hear that.
I've shopped IPs for licensing that had like hundreds of thousands of followers, and still they're like, nah. It's timing also though, because if it's like
Yeah,
too old, if it's not really trending right now, licensing is so trend driven. Like, so yeah, and I would say, if you're not gathering emails from those followers of yours, you should. I would invest money
yeah,
in retargeting ads that lead them to a landing page to sign up for the next drop of characters that are going to be available for sale, so that you can own those contacts, get email, get phone number, so you can text and email. I would definitely use the money to collect what you already should own. And you're totally right. Like,
100%.
it's not safe to build a business on Instagram. The past couple months, I really didn't use Instagram as much, and I'm really trying to move away from like relying on that platform for visibility, and instead like building the email list, building the podcast. But like, you got to take people
Yeah,
away from the platforms you don't own, essentially.
100%. And that is something that, like, I do, and I just need to focus harder on doing. So
Yeah,
it's easy, and it's time. It's not only time consuming; it just costs money, as you're
it
saying,
does cost money.
and all this stuff. It's like, right now I'm still trying to pay for the production. Like,
Yeah,
I raised a good amount, but I still have to pay out of pocket. And
yeah,
the beautiful thing is that, like, right now, like, again, with the focus, I want to focus on getting them through the finish line, because I think once they're in people's hands, then I get, the natural marketing being done. Like, people are going to do unboxings or reviews, or just like,
yeah,
my hopefully fan bases I've already established, those like diehards that I get DMs like, hey, what's going on? Like, this is a new character. Those people hopefully will be my champions and champion the brand. I'm just trying to get to that point.
You've got a lot of fans here. This is what people are saying about your
Cool.
video. Awesome. We're seeing that was 5-star.
Thank you.
But we do have another question. Oh, and wow, you put a lot of work into your brand. People are loving the video.
Thank you.
And if you guys are watching live and you have more questions, I think we have a little bit more time, so toss them in now. The last big question I have here is from Scott. Yes, were there any significant design changes or alterations as you went from preliminary design to sculpt to prototype? And were you open to things changing?
Yeah, every single time I work with a new artist and a different medium, so meaning like 2D to animation, from
Mm.
a 2 3D image to a 3D model, like every single time shifting from an artist or a medium, it's always a design iteration. Like there's always something that comes up. Like for instance, Major,
Mm.
like arm wasn't long enough to bypass his thigh because the bow, like it's little things like that, or even just, oh, Scotchy's beard was just a little too long, so it interrupted with the tape thing, or this is a different expression that we could try because it actually conveys,
Oh,
the
interesting.
like, how do you make a toy out of a can? And his facial expression is his whole thing, and the nuts inside are the wow factor, I guess. And it was one of those characters that was the biggest challenge of making, how do you make a toy out of a can? But that, because we did the work and the due diligence and the thinking behind it, the expression, all that stuff, he became a popular character. When I personally was like, he's the last character I'm gonna do. Like I wasn't even like, I don't want to say interested in making a toy. I just didn't know how to make a toy. So that was a really cool experience to see, artists' interpretations, me learning, and then my interpretations once I had a physical thing, and me being the creator. Like, okay, I think this expression can work because this leads to his personality, etc.
And who did like these? Like, you have a whole commercial. Do you have episodes done?
No, not episodes. Those
Just a
are
commercial.
technically, like, I have a Bible just in case people ask for a pitch. There's things I have,
You've
like just in case.
comics? Like,
Yeah.
are these full? How many comic stories do you have done?
I have one that's published and a couple that are written, but I want to get the first one out, see how that does
You
before
better follow up
investigating
with
the second.
Hasbro.
I'm trying. Okay. Hey, Mark.
I mean, yeah. I mean, yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I'm sorry. I'm speechless at how I mean, I knew it. I mean, I've seen it before obviously, but seeing it again is just this big refresh reminder that of how incredible you are and how much you've done with this brand. Okay. So let
In
me give you
hindsight, what I want to add is,
uh-huh.
like, now learning from that, and again going through the course and listening to different podcasts, is at the end of the day, it's like a toy company is going to be worried about one thing: how to move that product off a shelf. And I
Mhm.
really wanted to drill that down in the pitch. Like in hindsight, now looking, I kind of want to drill that in more and
Mm.
focus on, again, about like story. Like, people need to invest the chance in creating story right now, because that's what's gonna like build that
So,
connection, and that pushes out those toys today still to those adults that are brainwashed from 20 years ago.
as I talked about how licensing is such a time based thing, since you've pitched, more and more toy companies have leaned into wanting to be entertainment companies. Now, they haven't outright said it. It's kind of an analysis that everyone in the industry is making based on the positions that seem to be getting laid off and then the positions that seem to be getting added to most toy companies, as well as
Yeah,
things like the Barbie movie. I think there's a Rubik's Cube movie coming out. I know Hasbro
100%.
has a movie. I can't remember. But the Hot Wheels TV show. More and more toy companies are looking at a way to turn their brands into IPs. So I think that is a great opportunity for someone who has developed a full brand with a solid story that makes sense and is interesting, and design the toys with it. I mean, for a company looking for something new, this seems like a no-brainer.
Which is, it's funny, like I said, my business has been in video for years,
Hmm.
and business partner, I've been saying this for years. Every company moving forward is going to turn into a media company. And
Yeah.
you look at an example like Red Bull. Like Red Bull was kind of a pioneer of this. Like they sell, I mean, energy drinks, but at the end of the day, they have like a Red Bull channel, dirt bikes, skydiving, all these things. They're jumping off planes, and like there's so much content behind that because it fuels the brand. It's more commercials, basically. It's real estate. Like it's content that's just being generated. Then people are tagging themselves in Red Bull. It becomes a movement. So to go back, like Hasbro, I did listen to podcasts as well as Mattel. They were both transitioning into moving their company into more of a content driven. They wanted, specifically, they said, like, I want to do what Disney Plus or Disney's done with the Star Wars franchise, or Disney's done with the Marvel franchise.
Where did
There,
you hear that? What
those are.
show?
It was a podcast with Hasbro about most one of those like entrepreneur
Oh,
podcasts
okay.
about like how to make it. But he specifically said he's going to move towards content, and that's why Transformers came out, and that's what like it's been out, but like they're tying in GI Joe and all these other things. Like that's the smartest thing to do because you can make billions on toys, but you can also make billions just on IP, making the movies, the TV shows. Like in a perfect world, I need to do a Medium article. Remind me too.
Mm-hmm.
The streaming and the toys companies need to come together, like a Hasbro and
Yes.
Netflix combination.
Yes. Oh my
And
gosh,
that's what I
yes.
would love to pitch is that like, listen, guys, you have this freaking amazing service called Netflix that pushes out content. Everything they push out that's supposedly number one on the week instantly is
Yeah.
clearly going to get eyes. Tie that with the toy, and you got a multi-billion-dollar success. You know.
How do you afford to make all these videos though? Like
Well,
where
that's me. That's just me doing it. Like I
oh
have,
wait, did
like I
you record
film
all
it
of
and I
these?
edit.
You film all these?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the
And I have
lighting's so good.
thankfully, my buddy does the lighting, so I a lot.
The
Thankfully,
lighting.
it's again, this. I think you have a podcast literally or a module too. Like step into your own power. Like what can you do really well?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Double it into toys. So this is what I can honestly do, and obviously, toys need content. That's what I was leading to.
Yeah. And I think that I also have a podcast episode somewhere about it too, like the puzzle of you, find what you're great at, combine the things you love with that to build what company or brand you should create. Oh, wow. I mean, congratulations. I mean, I know you haven't achieved what you want to achieve yet, but to
No,
everybody
now I'm feeling
here,
successul. I'm like, hey,
okay.
you know what? Like,
Like, I
I'm
am
awesome. I'm
pretty
doing it.
good.
I'm doing it. I am doing it. Wow. Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're
No,
doing
it's
it.
really you forget because you're like waiting for the milestone of it. For me, I have that vision of someone like a little kid picking it up in a toy aisle. You know, like
Hmm.
until I'm there, it's not done. But I'm like, no, it's actually making amazing progress.
Yeah, the
Let me
journey.
that
Honestly,
a
I
little
think
bit.
that I can't see the future, but I do believe if you had this product ready to be at a specialty show, there a lot of people would be drawn to it and you might get a few orders, which I feel then you'll be on the shelf and you'll have that feeling of like, oh my gosh, I did it, it's done. And I just, as we close, Erin had one comment for you. I want you to see it. She said she feels you as someone trying to promote their own IP without paying Facebook for ads. It's rough out here. No one sees my
No, yeah.
stuff. It's true.
Honestly, community. Like, see, again,
Community.
when I was talking about bartering, it's just networking. Is
We should have like
everyone's
a we should have like a barter Wednesday on like every month or something in the group where we all post what we're good at and what we need help with. Then we could just barter.
there's so many things like that that happen like locally that are like little pop-ups that you could see how it becomes
Oh,
successful
really?
because no matter what you're like I'm telling you, the clients that I work with, these are billion-dollar, I mean million-dollar companies and stuff like that. They're always struggling with the same thing on Instagram. Everyone's playing on it. Like there's not a
Wow.
is there's no need to for everyone to be on the same space. So you have to kind of create your own space, and that looks smaller. That looks more like guerrilla warfare. That's getting clever with it. That's like for instance, like you just did the trade show at Astra, and you had like really great takeaways. That is the style I would do it too. Create little takeaways, goodie bags. Like for me, going.
Hold on, you just got really far away and really quiet. Can you
Oops,
come
sorry.
closer?
Hello, hello.
Come louder and closer.
Create like.
Perfect.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, perfect. So basically, like create experiences, create things that are takeaways, create things that will help. Hopefully, that someone gets it. They want to take a photo of it, that they want to share it on their social media. Do whatever means possible. Just really think outside the box, because if you only are thinking about social media in the next post, like that's where I was, and the lack of feedback, whether it's a like or a share, like that gets to you. You think it's not good enough,
You think
etc.
it's
Like those
you,
things
yeah.
that like that's
I'm going to
just doesn't
share
help
what
you.
you're
So
talking about, my showcase,
yeah.
as an example, and ignore my messy desktop. But yeah, this is a good point, and thank you for saying that because part of me, we were talking beforehand, and I was like, I don't know, like, is an event like this valuable? Like, is this something I should be spending my time and money on? Because it's not a profit driver, but if we looked at Instagram and Facebook like that, we never look at Instagram. We'll spend all day on it and we'll be like, it's fine. It's fine. It's getting likes. But you're right. Something like this that brings people together in a small, intimate way, but also creates like a photo booth opportunity or an Instagram, honestly, opportunity for people to take photos and feel fun and cool in. That is how you create that sense of community and that interest in your brand.
Yeah. And one of the things too is like what's cool is like my mission, like I said, is to create that the imagination, let people spark. It's already happening too. I get DMs of people creating their own characters.
Really?
And like this dude, and their sketches, and they're like, it's just, I'm like, yes, I'm doing it. Like something's working, whatever I'm doing, and it's making sure that I appreciate those moments. I'm saying this out loud so I can like register myself.
Appreciate those moments.
It's actually happening. It's not like I have to wait for the toy to be out there already. It's not out there. No one's touched it, but it's already invoking that energy that I put out there. I can't wait for the TV show. This looks like something I would have watched with my dad. Yes. This feels like Christmas. Comments are like just like that.
Oh,
and like,
gosh.
yes, I'm doing great.
You're doing great. You're really doing great. As soon as your toys are out, actually, as soon as you have the production approved, maybe we should get you out a press release. Go back to module 7 and get that press release out. I'm sure the toy book would be all over the floor about it. My last question for you is, what toy or game blew your mind as a kid?
Out of all the questions, this was like the hardest one for me.
Everyone says
because
that.
Because our generation is so lucky. Like I could think about a million, like creepy crawlers, Tamagotchis, and Nintendo itself. Like there's so many cool things that we played with. Yeah. And like, I mean, I already said the Ninja Turtles was a big impact in my life, so I'll lean towards things like maybe that were forgotten, like creepy crawlers. I just remember good memories with that of like being in the room making little creations and waiting for the light bulb to light up and somehow burning yourself on it. Like those are the silly things. Like that's to me is again kind of what's missing in today. Like there were such creative toys back then that it's just like, let's see what happens. There was no data. They're not waiting for Instagram trends and all this other stuff. Like who would have said this would have been a hit? People just took chances and it got made. And if it had the good intentions, it was a cool toy, then obviously it stuck.
Yeah.
Go back to that.
Creepy crawlers. I love it.
Creepy crawlers.
You made me feel so basic with my Polly Pocket answer, but yeah, creepy
No,
crawlers.
but Mighty Max for the boys too. That was such a cool one too.
Mighty Max. Like, honestly, yes.
Oh I had God. Like I literally had to go to my room, which is like full of all the toys. Like, which one was the most memorable?
Oh, that's awesome. I'm glad I gave you some time to think about it. Well, Brandon, thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to share before I let you go? Even if it's just how to buy 9 to 5 Warriors, or if it's any other tips you want to share.
Since this was about pitching IP, story. Even if your toy doesn't necessarily have a story and it's an experience, pitch the story of how you came up with it and pitch the story of how you would feel or experience said toy. Like, again, watching my pitch, it's a story. It's not like target demographic, next slide,
Yeah.
Traction slide. This is how you'd like, this is where I'm at. Like everything was just a progression and a natural flow. And because trust me, I've looked a million times. That's how I discovered you, of Googling how to pitch a toy, and I found your site and all that stuff. Like you're going to find a million different answers, just like anything. It's just like, what's the right way? Just tell a good story. And no matter what, you'll be fine.
I support that. If you're in my email list, all I do is tell stories all day. I'm like, so today I went to Mexico. And then at the end, it's like, that's how you develop a toy idea. Like, when did she combine a toy idea with Mexico? How did she do that? Yeah, that's me. That's how I tell a story. No, this was great. And actually, I'm sorry. I have to ask you one more piece of advice. Do you have any resource for somebody that is struggling to, or maybe they don't even know they're struggling, like a resource that tells people what is a good story? I know you learned this because you're in video editing, but there must be a book or a site that you like reference when you're like, is this story told right?
I think this is what I'm going to hammer it in on, especially in the story world. There's ways to write a script. There's ways to write a story, 3-act structure. Don't introduce too many characters at once.
3-act structure? What? Okay.
But that's what I'm saying. Just ignore all of that, because at the end of the day, like everyone's got an opinion, and what makes a good story is that does it light you up? Every time
Uh-huh.
you tell it, does it light you up? And then
Yeah.
your light is going to, the next person, they're going to get lit up. They're going to remember whatever bit of it that lit them up. They're going to retell it, hopefully, you know. So, yeah, there's a million resources. There's a book literally called Story that tells you how to dive into character development, all these things. I read it. I took some takeaways, but the things that matter the most is it a good story? You'll light up, and then you'll feel passionate about making it. Passion's everything, just like a toy. Like, you want a
Yeah.
toy because you think it's going to be a hit, and you have
Yeah.
no emotion just because it lights up and it uses a thing. Like, it's going to fail because there's no core connection to it from you. So
Yeah.
how's the next person, you know?
Thank you so much, Brandon. Toy people,
Thank you.
this was an incredible conversation. Brandon Braswell, the creator, founder, video editor, toy designer. I mean, toy lead toy designer, right? Because you had help, right? You had your sculptors working with you. But yeah, for 9 to 5 Warriors. Go ahead.
I just learned how to sculpt. I'm so proud of myself.
Oh, excuse me. Now toy designer, Brandon Braswell.
Now, that's one more thing. Go on YouTube and learn, man. I honestly stopped myself so much because I thought it was hard. I got an iPad.
3D sculpt?
I downloaded, Nomad Sculpt for $15.
Nomad Sculpt?
Yes. I'm going to hammer down this. Do this right now,
I'm going to download it right now.
Use your AI generation, put your ideas out, get a reference point, and then just play on an iPad. And I guarantee you, there's like a YouTube thing that I watched that was like 3 hours long, granted, but after 3 hours, I became a master. I felt.
What? Okay, you got to share that
I'm
link,
excited,
and I'll put it in the show notes for this episode.
Yeah.
Everybody who's watching on YouTube, you got it first. You know, everybody else to the podcast is going to have to wait. So subscribe to the channel. And basically the summarize, I mean, we don't even have to summarize the episode because Brandon did it so beautifully, but story. That is the summary of the episode. So your job today, if you're listening to this podcast, is to download Nomad Sculpt. No, I'm kidding. No, is to work on the story behind your toy brand or your IP brand that you're working on. And maybe say it again to yourself and say, am I really lit up about this? Does this really excite me? And if it doesn't, don't feel free to change it. Don't be afraid to change things. Thank you, Brandon. It was a pleasure interviewing you.
Thank you for having me. This is exciting. I'm going to go apply to the Hasbro and write other emails.
Get it done. Okay. Take care.
Thank you. Have a good one.